This video is proudly sponsored by DigimonCard.io for all your Digimon card, deck building, deck list, card pricing, and discussion needs.
Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the Play TCG Digimon Webcam Regionals that happened this past weekend. It was 474 players with 8 rounds of Swiss to get to this top 16 finish that we see here today. So real quick, shoutouts to Play TCG for running this event, as well as giving me these lists to give to you guys, as well as letting myself and Huynh being the commentators for this event as well. So really do appreciate this opportunity. If you guys want to see the VOD, it is on Twitch right now, which is linked in the description, as well as linked in this document, and will be re-uploaded to YouTube later this week as well. So, and also, if you guys do appreciate these videos, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It would mean a lot, and it's a lot of work to put these videos together, and I really would appreciate it. But going into this top 16 breakdown, we do have 4 Bloomlords, 3 MetalGaruru X, 2 Blackboard Greymons, 1 Security Control, which did end up taking the event, 1 Alphamon, 1 Grandis, 1 Imperialdramon, 1 Dorbick, 1 Red-Yellow Hybrid, and 1 Mastemon. So all of these are, I think, very strong decks. And this is probably the most diverse top 16 we've seen in a very, very long time. So normally, like I'd say Bloomlord and MetalGaruru X, pie slices take about half of it, but a little bit less, and we do have a lot of one-ofs there as well. So we also do have the breakdown of what people were playing, and I do also want to just big shouts to EagleX for getting this data for us for this video, and make sure to follow them on YouTube as well. EagleX was also the head judge for this event, and it again went very, very smoothly, so really do appreciate all the hard work on that end. But going into these deck lists and going into the ratios here, so even though this is probably one of the worst showings in top 16 for MetalGaruru X, it is 88 of this 474, so just under 20% of people were playing this deck, which is pretty high, especially since it is twice as popular as the next one, which is Bloom Hydra, which again got more spots in this top 16 with just a little less than 10% of the share there. And then going into some other just factoids here, so there's only 1 Alphamon, and it got second, so big shout outs for that event and that, but not really, I don't know, just a good diversity of decks for it. And even if with this big, like, middling area, not a lot of them did get into this top 16. Like, a lot of them were just decks that were kind of singletons or not very important. Like, for example, like the Mastemon, 14 and 1 of those got in. We did also have like Imperialdramon, which 16 players, 1 of those got in top 16, right? And Dorbick, I don't think there's less than 5 Dorbicks into this top or in this deck at this event, and that deck did get a top 16, which is also big there. So really interesting to see. It was pretty much half of it was these guys, and then a lot of decks that very few players played did get a lot of single spots in this top 16. So anyways, that's enough of that. We're going to go over the individual list now, starting with Chris Sock's first place Security Control. Starting off, we have Chris Sock's first place Security Control list, and right off the bat, this has to be the fewest amount of Digimon I've seen in a deck in a long time. There's only 15 of Digimon in it. Actually, there's 7 rookies between the Salmons and Bushies, 4 Magna Angemons, and then 2 Venkijmons and 2 of the Death Xmons. So not a lot of that, but definitely getting the job done. And also something is that I did see Chris just being able to finish their games. They were able to play it fast enough. And obviously, there's not as much interaction for this deck, and the fact that you're probably playing 1 card per turn, but very, very interesting on these ratios here. So 1 mat, 4 Mimis, which is great when, again, you're playing so many option cards in this deck, 3 Karis, and then in your options, 4 Holy Waves, 2 Lonky, 2 Eden Javelins, a Reinforcing Member Boost, 4 Wyvern's Breath, 4 Fly Bullets. Fly Bullets, I'd say, is probably one of the cards that I don't see as often, but looked like it did a lot of value for this weekend. 2 of the Schwartz, and then the Flame Hell Sights and Chaos Degradation. So very, very aggressive on their option cards on that. And I'd almost think this deck might have a hard time finishing sometimes, because you aren't getting a lot of swings in because you don't have a lot of Digimon to swing with. But just seeing the games and seeing the matches from this weekend, that never really seemed to be a problem. There are a lot of times where just you play Magna and it live and then you attack with it, or like Flame Hell Scythe help bring it out, or like you have a Death Xmon and they have a hard time, getting rid of it and that kind of stuff. So just looked very, very strong and really obnoxious to play against. So just a big congrats to Chris on their finish there. And going into our second place list, I don't think I said this. I think the top eight of this event did have like just a unique archetype for each one of the top 8, which is really cool. But going into second place, we do have James's Alphamon, and I did do an interview with him already, which is on the channel. So if you want the in-depth video on that is probably the place to be. But going into the specifications for this list, I'd say like the biggest card for the choice is the Greymon, and obviously you can only run one of the Duro Gray, and he told me that he did try to go up the Ryutamon list line for this kind of like the natural replacement for the Duro Greymon list, but he said he just didn't get that consistency. He didn't like those cards as much. The Greymon being able to help make your stack and get consistency is really, really nice, and just seems to be doing a lot of value for him there. So that's pretty much like the big change for this. Otherwise, I'd say this is almost a pretty standard Alphamon list outside of that. Not a lot of level 4s either and rookies, so 11, 8, and then only 5 here. His also reasoning for only having 5 level 5s is that in like a traditional list, when you could have Duragray at 4, you would be playing Duragray and then 3 of the Dex version of it, but that pretty much just means like you never want to go into the Dex version, right? You'd always want to go into Duragray. So even the old builds were technically only running like 4 of these level 5s, and he kept it at these ratios, and he just felt very confident with it. And just to say, like, this build is more of, instead of having like going up and doing an OTK all in one turn, it's more of going up, being able to get some poke damage or get some control, end the turn with either like a Breath of the Gods or a Final Zupagon Punch to be able to get the reboot blocker, and then be able to just sit on this big Alphamon or Huynh on the next turn and then go in again on the turn after that. So it looked very strong. I do recommend trying to watch some of the matches with this deck. I think he's very good with Alphamon, and just it's really cool to see this deck get second, especially since it was literally the only Alphamon list at the event as well. So big congrats to James on their finish there. And next up, we do have the third place. This is Ken's Grandis, and Grandis has been doing pretty good, I'd say, for the last little bit. It's not been as popular as Bloomlord, but it still, does still get the job done for a lot of these kind of big OTKs strategies. So, obviously we do have our regular line, and there's not, I'd say, a lot of room for creativity for a deck like this right now. The big ad is like Death Xmon, which probably fits very well if you're able to see it. You don't see normally a lot of control aspects. We have that and Grandel Soul and X Antibody, like all of these are really good in security. Green Mem Boost and Mimis as well. Any of these cards get hidden security, you get a big boost, and really does help like the crackback turn, especially since Mimi or Green Mem Boost can give you a position where you are able to go up your line into your Grandis when normally you would not be able to kind of do that. So normally most of the Grandises that I've been seeing top in these past couple of weeks have been splashing blue, but it's nice to see that the mono green version is also doing some work, and just big old congrats to Ken on their third place. Next up, we have Shaun with their MetalGaruru X, and I don't have a lot to say about this archetype that I haven't been saying pretty much every week since it's been out, because it's pretty much topped every event for since PT9 came out. So I'm really running out of things to say. I think when I'm having to say like Madoki Betamon is like the tech for it, that is pretty much all I have to say. We're seeing Hammer Spark, which also is a decision point for deck building if you want to run Hammer Spark or not. But that is about it. Big congrats, though, to Shaun. You obviously have to be good to play this deck. There's not a lot, I'd say, of creativity for the deck building once again. But big congrats for fourth place at just such a big event. It's a big accomplishment no matter what you're running. So big congrats to Shaun there. Next up, we have Hien. I'm going to say this. I already said this wrong, but we're going for it. Hien Huynh's fifth place Imperialdramon. And Imperialdramon it's just worse MetalGaruru X at times, but does have jamming a lot, which even though MetalGaruru X sometimes are like technically has jamming at some point, this definitely has it, which is kind of nice. And I don't know, this is just kind of more of the aggressive, greedy version of MetalGarurumon X right now, and it's very, very strong if you're able to see what you're needing, and your opponent's security is pretty bad. And normally only one of those things are true, which kind of sucks for this deck at times, but it still has a lot of gas, and if you're able to see everything, you're in a really, really good spot. So I don't have a lot to say about this deck. We've seen Imperialdramon list for a while, and nothing too terribly new, but just big congrats to Hien for their finish. I do love Imperialdramon as a deck, as well as Armor Rush, and just it is like be able to get 5th place with this deck is huge for the event and the format and just everything else. Anyways, going into our next one, we do have Cayden with their 6th place Dorbick, and Dorbick is just a menace at times, and you're going to see this deck right now, and you're probably just looking at what you assume just to be a big pile of cards, which is correct. Like these decks just look like just big old piles, but the idea of this deck is that you do want that OTK potential for it, and the way that you're able to do this is with Dorbickmon. If you're able to get enough of cards in your hand to do the effect, for each one with Dragon Sword or Espira, and its traits and evolution, it gets plus 2k to the maximum DP for this effect and reduces the Digi-Cross effect. And it has Rush, which is great. So you're able to get this 12k with Rush and then just a bunch of inheritables. I can't go through like all of them, but as you can see, pretty much all these cards have inheritables for you. The big one I'd say is Ramon, which does give you once returned, if your opponent has no Digimon of Devolution cards in play, unsuspend this Digimon. So being able to keep attacking and get 2 swings with its Dorbick is really, really strong there. I do like the Omnimon X antibody tech for this one too, because you can Digivolve it on top of Dorbick. You don't really get in effect immediately, but you do get a lot of attack negation with that too. We do have Heroes of the Sky to let you just draw 2, essentially. Fireball, essentially that too, because a lot of times you do need that cycle, because you will be kind of low on hand size whenever you use your Dorbick. And if this does get removed, all the cards you've got, you put underneath it, don't go back and you don't get it back from doing it, which is really stinky at times. That is pretty much it. Most of these just give DP or let you get like a security attack +1, which just means that these are some really, really chunky swings with these Dorbicks, which is pretty scary, and like a delicate plan just for funsies in case you need it. But yeah, sometimes they just drop it and they're very great. And there's also like the Cow's Gallimon, which with the Can Wisemon, you're able to give it your opponent can't block this attack essentially with a combination of these 2 underneath it, which is another like nice little tech there. So anyways, that is that list there. Congrats to Cayden. Dorbick is really interesting, and I think it's in a weird spot, but it can do very well, just like it did for Cayden this weekend. Next up, we have Niccolo's 7th place Bloomlord, and obviously Bloomlord has been creeping up as probably one of the better decks in the format. I think it's still neck and neck in my mind if it's better than MetalGarurumon X. It's obviously topping a little bit more, but when it tops, it's still like in this X1 kind of territory. I don't think it's I don't know. I think MetalGaruru is still doing better, but it's hard to say if that's because it is highly established as a deck and people are still learning about Bloomlord. But I think it's one of the best consistent green decks that we've seen in a minute. And I think it's even a little bit more consistent than Grandis, which is still very popular right now. But not a lot of kind of decision points for deck building, I will say, for this one. You are kind of really hindered by, or not maybe, at least hindered in a deck building sense of running a lot of these vegetations and plant types. But I do like the add of the Shivamon, and we did see this come up where this is just a bully of a card so much. And if you get this out early still, some decks really have a hard time against it, and especially like security control, being able to run this deck in security control is very, very strong, and being against security control and being able to just do that 1 damage every turn, shut off all of their option cards. I no doubt, like if I could run 2, I would 100%, because this feels really good, and everyone's still playing security control in events these big, so it is important on that one. But nothing too crazy from there. I think Hidden Potential Discover is also just nuts in this deck, especially with Bloomlord. So for free, being able to not only go into Bloomlord, but since this gains memory back, this Hidden Potential Discovered can get you 3, 4, 5 memory back at times, which pretty much is just like giving you a second turn, which is pretty crazy when that kind of works out. So that's been kind of rough for this deck in the sense that if you're playing against it, it feels worse than normal, even though this is only limited to 1, and that's just the end of that one. So anyways, congrats to Niccolo for their finish there. And next up, we do have Brian's 8th place Black War Greymon. And I haven't seen Black War Greymon get a top in a minute. It's something that I saw do very well in BT9 meta. And then when BT10, I didn't see a lot, despite it getting some boosts and being something that could be like a good counter against Crossheart, especially with the Tamer Destruction. But I didn't see a lot in in November or October, and having 2 at this event means, to my mind, that like this is like the most I've seen top an event in a minute in a long time. So anyways, going into the specifics about this one, and something that I really like about Brian's build is that it is very creative in some of the deck choices, especially it's just like a Dorbick top end, which is interesting, and it makes sense. This deck just naturally runs a lot of the materials that can be used for this Digicross, and if you play the Black War Greymon deck, most of the time you just end the game with just like a dozen plus cards in hand very easily based on how this deck works, and if everything is just a Dorbick material, I think that just goes off very, very easily and just like a natural add for this. Though you do have to be careful, you are playing a bunch of top ends, so you are running 8 level 6s and 2 level 7s, including the Madman's also running the Ragnarlordmon, which also makes sense because when I play this deck a lot, I'll usually have, it's not unheard of to have like 2 big stacks like of a Gaiomon or a Black War Greymon that just kind of, I don't really want to attack with them because of the inheritables. I just want to be like more like defensive with it. But this helps me like end the game at times as well. So I think that's kind of important, especially since you can do something like if you already have 1 stack established and then you do Dorbick, you can do the effects and then you can DNA into this and end the game too. So really like that. I like that this can go into something very aggressive very quickly, especially with the, like if you're running the Metal Greymon X package too, that's very strong there. And yeah, I like this deck, and I'm happy that it got its top 16 there. So congrats to Brian on their finish there. And then we do have Kevin Ambler's 10th place red-yellow hybrid. And this is a really interesting build too, because most of the time the yellow hybrids that I've been seeing top do kind of have like this level 6 package, like Venusmon, and kind of have these effects, but not this one. This one is strictly this red yellow in the sense that all of the rookies are Guilmons, and so we have 4 of the regular ones. We have 2 of the Guilmon from EX3, and then 2 of the X antibody, which can digivolve again on top of these, which is great. And all these just get like a bunch of draws off your Digimon, so that cycle is great. And I think 8 rookies is normally like a really good number for something like this. And then we have our Kaze, Zephyrs, and Jet Sylphies. We have 2 Death X-Mons because we're playing something in this meta. 4 Holy Waves, 3 Lonkeys, and then the Atomic Infernal, which does let you get some more security with that. 2 Blinding Rays, a Reinforced Memory Boost, 2 Crimson Blaze, a Sunrise Buster, a Fireball, a Gaia Force, and then a bunch of Tamers of TK Kari, Zoe, and then the Tai and Kari as well. So really slick deck in that way. The only thing is, no doubt they've thought this is on one. That's the only card that I could think is I would maybe want to add, and only just to either not deck out or perhaps get some more of these tamers back in here, or maybe just like having, or not tamers, these hybrids, and or maybe just having a red hybrid as well, just for the potential of that, since Zoe can find that. But this is me just spitballing ideas for this. I think this is a really solid build for it. I do like the add of 8 Guilmons as your low end, and yeah, I think it's very strong. And we are in like a meta, and we've pretty much always have been, where just having like 4 tamers out and then guaranteeing to get to like 6 memory, and just being able to digivolve into a hybrid and attack one by one does win. Like it's very uninteractable for a lot of decks to respond to that, and it's still like one of the best ways to just end the game. So I think it's a strong pick. I do like Yellow Hybrid, and it's obviously not been doing as well as Japan meta with the limiting of Jet Sophie to 1 a couple months ago, but I do think this is a really cool build. So congrats to Kevin on their finish there. And to wrap us up, we do have Vincent lose 11th place Mastemon, and Mastemon is like in a really rough spot, I'll say, and the reason I say this is because of all the matches that we saw for Mastemon this weekend. I feel like it was always struggling. It was like always like narrowly losing at all times. It felt very, very stressful for any of the Mastemon players. You still have some amazing plays with the deck, and it's just you're really, really at the whim of your security. It feels like most of the time, like just how many chaos segregations and how many flame hell sites are in there. And in a deck that doesn't have a lot of big security bombs and doesn't have a lot of ways to fix their security, they have ways to look at their security a little bit, and there are ways to recover, don't get me wrong, but not as much as I'd say like a traditional security control. You're just at the whim of that a lot of the time, and it just feels rough. Like because it's very easy for your security to just be very poor and you just lose on the spot at the same time. But I do think congratulate Vincent on their finish. This seems like this deck has always been, I'd say, pretty tough to pilot in the first place, but especially now you're in a lot of tough situations that you have to kind of work your way out of, and it's very impossible in some situations too. So nothing too particular from there. I do like what Nidhogg is pretty popular for us right now. We have Venusmon as a top end too, which is interesting, and also Creepymon, and also the Ordinimon. I've seen this hit the board in like North American meta like 2 times after all the matches I've seen. I've almost never seen this hit the board, but it is very tempting to play. You're playing Death Exmon because why would you not? And then just a bunch of your rookies. Only 7 rookies. You have TK and Mako. Mako's just been very strong for decks, especially since you are just playing these cards verbatim. So it is very strong there. And I don't think really anything else more to say this, but just congrats to Vincent on their finish. And I really do like Mastemon. It's just rough right now for Mastemon players. And that is going to be the entire breakdown for me today. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you're still here, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button, and that will be it for me. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.